Okay, we are on now. A very good afternoon to you all, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to begin by thank you for taking time to attend the EGM of the IOI Properties Group Berhad, especially those who stay on with us since the morning AGM. My name is Tan Kim Leong, the chairman of the company. Our EGM is held in compliance with the Article 60 of the company constitution, where the main venue of the EGM shall be in Malaysia, and the chairman shall be present at the main venue. Before we proceed with the agenda of this EGM, I would like to inform that for those present at the physical meeting venue today, kindly set your mobile on silent mode. Please also be informed that any form of photography or recording of video and audio by shareholders or proxies throughout the EGM is strictly prohibited. However, an official video recording of this EGM will be uploaded onto our corporate website for public viewing. As mentioned in our administrative guide, only shareholders who attend this EGM, either physically or virtually, are eligible to receive the Touch and Go wallet, e-wallet credits. The Touch and Go e-wallet reload pins will be emailed to eligible shareholders within 21 business days from today. For walk-in shareholders who did not pre-register through the convened AGM meeting platform, kindly ensure that you have provided valid email address to our administration and polling agent at the registration desk. We also wish to highlight that in case of emergency for on-site shareholders, you may evacuate this ballroom through the exits on your left. For the benefit of those shareholders and proxies who have just joined us, let me introduce my fellow directors and members of the senior management in attendance today. With me, from my far left on the first row at this meeting venue, are our independent non-executive directors, Mr. Chan Cha Lin, Datin Jenny Lim Lai Ling, and Miss Shirley Goh, followed by non-independent, non-executive director, Dr. Tan Kim Hyong. On my immediate left is our Group Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Lee Yao Sing. On my immediate right, we have our Company Secretary, Mr. G. Ban Tak. And next to him is our non-independent, non-executive director, Dr. Lee Yao Cho. On my far right, our independent, non-executive directors, Dr. Tan Thian Tai and Miss Lee Ai Ling. On the second row, starting from my left, we have our Group Financial Controller, Miss Michelle Shen. Next to her is our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Liao Wing Xiong. In the middle is our Chief Operating Officer, Property Investment, Mr. Chris Chong Wun Foy. And followed by our Group Chief Operating Officer, Property Development, Mr. Teh Jing Guan. And last but not least, our Chief Operating Officer, Property Development, Southern Region, Mr. Lim Bing Yen. Joining this EGM remotely, we have our independent non-executive director, Mr. Lim Sin Sing. Our Chief Executive Officer, Singapore, Ms. Lawrence Xiao Sao Ching. And our Managing Director, Asset Management, Singapore, Mr. David William Thibault. Okay. Meanwhile, Mr. Adrian Koh, the representative from our external legal counsel, Mr. Mark Camaria and Philip Kaur, is also in attendance at this AGM, in this EGM. I shall now call upon our Company Secretary, Mr. Chi Bantak, to confirm if there is a quorum to proceed with today's EGM.
Thank you, Dr. Tan, Chairman. I wish to inform that under Article 65 of the company's constitution, the quorum necessary for the transaction of a business at a general meeting shall be 2 members present personally or by proxy or by corporate representative entitled to vote. I was informed that we have received 228 valid proxy forms and certificate of appointments of corporate representatives, representing approximately 85.81% of the total issued share capital of the company. Based on the attendance record, I am pleased to confirm the presence of the requisite quorum at the commencement of this EGM.
Thank you, Mr. Chi. I shall now call the EGM to order. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to inform that the company has received a request from Mr. Lee Yao Sing to withdraw the ordinary resolution from the agenda of this EGM. Can we have the letter to be shared on the screen? Where's the letter? In his letter, Mr. Lee conveyed that after having taken cognizance of the feedback received from various institution shareholders relating to the ordinary resolution, he wishes to reconsider the option available to address the potential conflict of interest position. As set out in our circular to shareholders dated 9 October 2024, the redevelopment work on Shenton House, which will give rise to the conflict of interest position, are scheduled to commence only in the first quarter of 2027. I read this again. For your information, let's go back one more slide. The development of the Shenton House will give rise to the conflict of interest position only on the first quarter of 2027, which is about 3 years from now. So this take note is very important. Mr. Lee will reevaluate the option available and to take the appropriate steps to engage further with institutional shareholders and to address the concern held by all relevant stakeholders. Mr. Lee feels that it would be appropriate to withdraw the resolution pertaining to the proposed Section 218 shareholders' consent at this juncture, rather than to postpone or to adjourn the EGM. As the process of addressing the relevant matters may require some time and consideration, in light of Mr. Lee's genuine request and his good faith and effort to consider additional options for addressing the conflict of interest, following discussion with institutional shareholders, I, as chairman of the meeting, concur with his request. And I believe that withdrawing the resolution is in the company's best interest and for good governance and transparency purposes. With this, we will not be proceeding with the intended agenda of the meeting or consideration the resolution set out in the notice of the extraordinary general meeting. However, for the shareholders' information, And for good governance and transparency purposes, we also request our company secretary to read out the letter from EPF, which highlight their concerns regarding Lee's conflict of interest situation.
Thank you, Chairman. We wish to inform that EPF will be voting against in the EGM resolution pertaining to the shareholder consent on the conflict of interest position involving Mr. Lee in his capacity as Group CEO and major shareholder with the interest in Shenton 101 Private Limited. EPF is concerned that Mr. Lee's current role as Group CEO of IOI PG and Director of Shenton 101 exposes IOI to direct competition with Shenton 101, creating risks for the minority shareholders. While EPF acknowledges the board efforts to address potential conflict of interest by implementing management agreement and establishing consultative committees, they have reservations about approving this resolution. The Shenton House project, as outlined, involves similar operations and objectives to those of IYPG, putting it in direct competition with the group's development in Singapore. Given the substantial overlap in business interests, EPF believes this arrangement may not wholly eliminate the potential risks to protect shareholders' value. Beyond operational concerns, this arrangement may set a precedent in the market to align with the best governance practice and to ensure that decisions is made in the best interest of shareholders. EPF emphasizes the critical need for a clear, distinct separation between personal and corporate interests. Furthermore, EPF is concerned that this conflicting position could undermine shareholders' confidence and as it does not align with corporate governance best practices. I shall now pass the floor to the chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Liao. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the matter, and I declare the meeting closed. Thank you all for coming to this meeting. Thank you. Just one more letter. One more letter from the... Okay. I would now like to invite our CFO to share the Minority Shareholders Watch Group letter for your information.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So now I will read out the questions from SWG and our responses. So the question 1. Shenton 101 is an SM private company limited by shares incorporated on 31st October 2023 in the Republic of Singapore. The incorporation of Shenton 101 by Lee Yao Sing was to facilitate the tender of Shenton House when it was relaunched for corrective sale by public tender on the 20th October 2023. On 1st November 2023, Shenton 101 entered into a tender for corrective sales and purchase of Shenton House at a consideration of Sing dollar 538 million. Mr. Lee had disclosed to the board at a board meeting held on 2nd November 2023 that there is a potential conflict of interest situation arising from his role in the redevelopment of Shenton House through Shenton 101, which may potentially interfere with or be in conflict with the interests of the IOI Group, in view that the IOI Group is also involved in similar business of property development, property investment and hospitality in Singapore. Mr. Lee had informed the board that the bid on Shenton House was not presented to the board at that point in time and was made in his personal capacity rather than by our IPG, due to the size of the subject acquisition and the tight timeline set by the Collective Sales Committee for Shenton House. Based on the timing of events highlighted above, what is the board's safe or interested director's view in relation to Mr. Lee, the Group Chief Executive Officer actions on proceeding with his plans prior to informing the board, despite knowing that there is a conflict of interest situation. Sorry, there's a... Sorry, there's a question actually continues from the question number 1A. Forbes on 1st November 2023 reported that Lee Yao Sing, the Group Chief Executive Officer and the key shareholders of Malaysia IOI Property Group Berhad, has agreed to buy Shenton House, one of the oldest buildings in Singapore Raffles Place Central Business District, for $538 million, which is USD 394 million. This is the sources, the link from this Forbes. Was the board aware of Mr. Lee's plans and action prior to him disclose them to the board at the board meeting on 2nd November 2023? Given that the tender of Shenton House was relaunched for collective sale by public tender on 20 October 2023, and Forbes reported the news on 1st November 2023. Our response, the board was not aware of Mr. Lee's plans and actions in relation to the tender for Shenton House prior to the board meeting held on 2nd November 2023. So the question on the B, based on the timing of events highlighted above, what is the board, in brackets, SIP for the interested director, view in relation to Mr. Lee, the Group Chief Executive Officer, action on proceeding with his plan prior to informing the board, despite knowing that there is a conflict of interest situation? Our response, at the special board of the directors meeting held on the 2nd November 2023, the board members raised their concerns directly with Mr. Lee about the potential conflict of interest situation arising from Mr. Lee's ownership of Shenton 101 and his role in the redevelopment of Shenton House, as the IOI Group is also involved in similar business of property development, property investment, and hospitality in Singapore. The board further raised its concern as to the potential competition between the Shenton House project with the existing and upcoming property development project of the IOI Group. The board members also raised the need to seek legal opinions to clarify on, among others, the nature, implications, and circumstances in which potential conflicts of interest may arise, along with the corresponding responsibilities of the board and audit committee in managing such conflicts, in order to enable the board to better assess the next steps to be taken by the board and to consider appropriate steps to be taken arising from the potential conflict of interest situation. The board subsequently sought and obtained the necessary legal advice, and the various steps subsequently taken by the board are outlined in the circular. Next question. Why did the board allow Mr. Lee to continue after becoming aware of the conflict of interest situation? Our response. At the time when Mr. Lee disclosed to the board the tender for Shenton House, Mr. Lee had already submitted the tender, which was also conditional upon meeting approvals from the inter-area, the strata title board. Hence, the board took the position that it would be more appropriate to monitor the status of the tender before deciding on the relevant step to be taken at that point of time. It is pertinent to note that the obligation to mitigate or address the potential conflict of interest position remained with Mr. Lee, and the board could only monitor the situation and consider the appropriate steps to address the conflict of interest as and when the conflict of interest arose. Subsequently, Mr. Lee, after the unconditional completion of the tender in June 2024, presented the board with the proposed disposal of Shenton House to address the mitigate the potential conflict of interest. Question 2. Should the resolution for the proposed Shenton 218 shareholders' consent not approved by the shareholders of RIPG, how and what will be the board and Mr. Lee plans to address the conflict of interest? Our response. In the event the proposed Section 218 shareholders' consent is not approved, Mr. Lee will need to put forward a further or alternative resolution to the shareholders to seek the shareholders' consent pursuant to Section 2181 of the Companies Act 2016. The Audit Committee and the Board will then evaluate and consider the relevant steps to resolve and mitigate the conflict of interest position. At this juncture, the current mitigation measures as detailed in the circular that have been put in place by the Board, that is, the entry into the management agreement, as well as the establishment of the enhanced procedures in managing the conflict of interest position, represent the intention of the Board to manage the potential conflict of interest situation and to safeguard the interests of the group. That's all. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, with that, I hereby declare the EGM closed. On behalf of the board, we thank you all for the time today. Please stay healthy and safe. Thank you.